going on, guys? This is Off the Script. I am JD from New York, and I'm bringing you the latest in WWE news and rumors. Shotzi Blackheart, an upcoming WWE superstar and one of my personal favorites in all of NXT. Terrible news happened to Shotzi this week. Her car was actually stolen right out from underneath her in front of her own home. Her world was turned upside down when she discovered her car was stolen, and in the car was all of her ring gear and her very, very special helmet that she comes out with every single time she's set to perform. Now, there is good news on this situation. It took a little bit, but the local police in Orlando, Florida found the vehicle, found Shotzi's wrestling gear. Did they find the helmet? I'll let Shotzi tell you as she updated everybody via a YouTube video. Roll it.
Stay tuned.
For example,
A really sentimental helmet in the trunk, and I just really, I don't even care about the car. I just want this helmet.
so where's the trunk line? Just open it like that.
There's a button on that side.
Oh, what side? On the driver's side?
Yeah, on the floor. Right next to the seat on the floor.
I'm in the truth.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's all mine.
So it looks
Yeah.
just like how you left it.
I think they might have ruffled through the bag and emptied it out, but all this is my stuff. That bag.
So do you even notice anything missing?
No. Not from this view, no. That looks like everything that looks like my yeah. Can I have the helmet?
Well, I'll get with you in a minute.
You need the flashlight?
I know. No, I'm good. I know that you said.
This is the greatest love story ever. Ew.
So, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, what's the deal with the helmet?
The reason I love the helmet so much is because my first day of training, it was hung up on the wall of my training facility, and every day I saw it. And then when I started having matches, my trainers let me have the helmet, and it's been with me my entire career. I've taken this thing all over the world.
Gotcha. So it's sentimental to your career.
Yes.
You know, it's absolutely amazing to me, man. She was probably just being really, really responsible and throwing your shit in the car, thinking it's safe, knowing you got an entire day of work at Full Sail University. That means you got 2 tapings of NXT. She probably wanted to get ready in the house, get in the car, and just jet off to Full Sail and go to work. And then next thing you know, your car and your gear are gone. And I wonder who it could possibly be. It's gotta be somebody that knew who she was, calculated this entire thing, and stalked her out. Because why would you go and steal that car knowing that it was Shotzi's car and her gear was in the car? Absolutely ridiculous. What type of car do you think she would have? But I guess that really doesn't even matter because a thief is gonna be a thief. But I'm just glad this ended in a happy ending. And it's very interesting. I personally did not know the significance of that helmet before she actually did that video and put it on YouTube. So that's very interesting. And like I said, I'm glad it ended in a happy ending and she got her helmet back. And now I know for sure, every time you look at Shotzi on TV and you look at that helmet, you're going to know the significance of that helmet and be happy that she got it back. So good on her, and I wish her the best. And maybe from this point on, let's keep the gear out of the car before you actually have to go to work. Keep it indoors so this thing doesn't happen again. Keep that helmet close to you at all times and don't let this happen again. I'm just glad it ended in a happy ending. One of the biggest sagas in all of pro wrestling right now has absolutely nothing to do with what we're seeing on Monday or Friday night coming out of WWE. The biggest saga in pro wrestling is where SummerSlam is going to emanate from in 2020. Now I have news. I had news all week, and I finally have news that could possibly put this story to rest once and for all. Is it going to be in Connecticut on top of Titan Tower? Is it going to be in Atlantic City, New Jersey by the Jersey Shore? Is it going to be in Orlando? Well, we finally have answers to that as PW Insider confirmed today, on Thursday, that SummerSlam will not be taking place in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and will be held inside the WWE Performance Center. Now, that's Mike Johnson. He also went on to say that WWE will be taping 2 shows tomorrow, Friday, today, which you guys will be seeing this on Friday. Tomorrow's tapings will cover this week's episode of Friday Night SmackDown and next week's episode of Monday Night Raw. WWE plans to go live every single week after SummerSlam, so the Monday Night Raw after SummerSlam will indeed be 100% live. Now, Mike Johnson saying the WWE Performance Center, but if you WrestleVotes, and on Twitter, you've seen this. WrestleVotes tweeted, good news and bad news. SummerSlam will not take place in the PC. However, no fans will be in attendance. Source still unsure on exact location, as the Northeast possibility is now said to be iffy at best. And that was on the 12th of August. Then the very next day, they tweeted this with a collage of pictures. And as you see there's one similarity between all of those pictures. I gotta give them their due on creativity to get people talking about what could possibly be at SummerSlam. All 4 of these pictures have one thing in common, and I didn't even realize that little Miz girl in the bottom right picture took place in Orlando. These pictures were photographed from the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida. That is now the location for the 2020 version of SummerSlam in WWE this year. WrestleVotes pretty much confirmed that with this collage of pictures on social media. You gotta give it to Vince McMahon, man. The guy is one persistent motherfucker. He didn't want SummerSlam inside the Performance Center. He went out and got the Amway Center in Orlando. Still located in Florida, but WWE is going to be operating out of Florida no matter what until all of this is done and over with COVID-19. He's lucky that he actually got something like the Amway Center, because if SummerSlam is taking place in the Amway Center, then more than likely Survivor Series will be in the Amway Center and the Royal Rumble will be in the Amway Center as well. And you know Vince doesn't want the Royal Rumble, the start of WrestleMania season, to be inside the fucking Performance Center. You gotta give the old man credit. So he got the job done. Now, another interesting note is that WWE is actually, for the first time ever, toying with the idea of using virtual fans as a possibility for future live broadcasts, including SummerSlam. Now, since the COVID-19 pandemic started, WWE has been doing empty arena shows, as we've seen. We've seen WWE recruits NXT talent in the Performance Center, giving that show a little bit of life. It's not the same, but now they're toying with the same idea as the NBA. The NBA is using virtual fans in attendance for their playoff games. I wonder if WWE could actually pull that off in a couple of weeks for SummerSlam. I don't think so. I really don't think that's going to be a possibility so soon. But if WWE wants fans, they could definitely have fans. AEW had friends and family all spaced out, social distance, protocols were in place, and people signed waivers to be in that building for AEW Dynamite on Wednesday. WWE has a massive roster in which they could do the same thing. The last time they did that, they did it with negligence. They did it because they thought they were immune. They thought they could get away with it, and then shit came down, and that entire PC was a COVID haven. They didn't follow any protocol. They weren't even testing. Now they have all the proper procedures in place. They know what to do. If they want to fill that arena with some life for SummerSlam, they could very well do that. So it's going to be very interesting to see what WWE does for SummerSlam. It's going to be a nice breath of fresh air to see something regarding WWE and a major pay-per-view inside an actual arena for the first time since the beginning of the year. It's going to be awesome to see. Now, the other interesting note is a major match, and we're going to save the discussion on this for not Fridays, but maybe Friday SmackDown, but Saturday for sure on Off the Script. AJ Styles does not have an opponent for SummerSlam. We are 2 weeks, less than that, away from SummerSlam, and the Intercontinental Championship is not in a major program on the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. That is absolutely pathetic. And now news is going around on Thursday afternoon that Jeff Hardy will be challenging AJ Styles for the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam. That should be very interesting. I'm very interested to see what those two guys can do. And I'll tell you this right now, man, not to talk about it too much, I'm glad it's not Big E, because that would have made no sense whatsoever. And you would have been doing the opposite. You would have been counterproductive, giving somebody like Big E a title match right now when clearly he doesn't deserve it yet. So I'm very interested to see what happens with Jeff Hardy. And it does make sense for Jeff Hardy because Sheamus took him out of the tournament. He vanquished Sheamus, and now his concentration could be on that IC title. Very interesting stuff. We'll find out more tonight on SmackDown. Speaking of the Intercontinental Championship, I know a lot of you guys out there listening to me are avid belt collectors. I got myself the Winged Eagle WWE Championship title. It's my favorite title from the time I grew up watching WWE. It's a little banged up. Might have to go and get myself a new one and display it in the office somewhere. But I know a lot of you guys are big avid belt collectors. And the latest addition to WWE's signature series of limited edition championships is an IC title dedicated to one Chyna, the ninth wonder of the world. They posted this on WWE Shop. I gotta admit, man, that's quite a looker. That's a really nice looking replica championship. I was a big fan of the late 90s, early 2000s version of the Intercontinental Championship. And I like the idea of WWE bringing back the idea of Chyna being the first woman to hold the Intercontinental Championship. It's a big moment in the lineage of that title. I'm not sure if this has anything to do with a time-specific reason as to why they're now releasing this. I'm sure this has nothing to do with SummerSlam. It's almost 20 years to the month where WWE had Chyna win the Intercontinental Championship. But regardless of all that, if you're an avid belt collector, this would look good in your collection, on your wall, man. So there you go. The design is based on the one WWE used in the late 90s and the early 2000s. So the one Chyna held when she won the title in 1999. The nameplate is emblazoned with Chyna's name and also includes 6 Swarovski crystals. The black studded leather strap was designed with Chyna's ring gear in mind. I really like that touch. And her moniker, the ninth wonder of the world, is printed between its studs, man. There you go. There you go. You guys want a new belt for your collection? WWE clearly has got one for you in this new design dedicated to Chyna, man. How many of you guys, be honest with me, how many of you guys, is there anybody listening to me right now that spent the $7,000, $8,000 on the Universal title that The Fiend had customed for himself? Please. If you did, let me know, man. I gotta know. I know they limited that to maybe 500, I believe it was. Let me know if you're one of those people. God bless you. I know there's avid belt collectors out there. They're crazy motherfuckers. I'd love to know if anybody actually dropped the money on that and added that title to their collection. But if you love Chyna, there you go, man. Go and get it right now on WWE Shop. I got some pretty interesting information coming out of Monday Night Raw. Now, nothing with the show, because the show sucks. But some pretty interesting information coming out from the Raw Underground segment that included Shayna Baszler. On the latest episode of Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian Alvarez noted that one of the women who Shayna Baszler destroyed was named Emily Anzulis. Now, he noted that Anzulis trains in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so if this was a legit shoot fight, she would have looked a lot better than she did on Monday Night Raw. Alvarez is reporting that Anzulis and the other two women, Marina Tucker and Sofia Castillo, were all told to hold back during their segment with Shayna Baszler on this week's Raw to make Baszler look as impressive as possible. Alvarez noted that all three women have some form of MMA training, with WWE reportedly going as far as to tell Anzulis to act like she had no clue to make Baszler look that much more impressive. How sad is that, folks? And then you wonder why Raw Underground is a fucking failure. I don't want to see that on Monday night. I want to see somebody who is going to take what they've learned elsewhere, apply it, and learn a new way in pro wrestling and mold the two scenarios. So you're asking these people to train in scripted fighting and disregard everything that you've legitimately learned as far as Anzulis with her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu just to make a scripted shoot fight look good to get Shayna Baszler over. I can't even begin to tell you. I don't even know where to begin here to tell you how bad this is. What? So this is how you're going to get Shayna Baszler over, by taking somebody else that is much more qualified for the position to be there legitimately, have them disregard all of their knowledge, and make Shayna Baszler look good by that, in that way, in that aspect. But WWE, they're a bunch of morons. You see, this is how they think they're going to get Shayna Baszler over, but all they did was give Shayna Baszler strike 1, strike 2, and strike 3, and you're out. I love Shayna Baszler, but WWE dropped the ball on getting her over legitimately in front of a pro wrestling aspect, in a pro wrestling way. And now they're going and jeopardizing these other credentials by these other women just to get her over now as a badass. I knew she was a badass coming on in. You don't have to demean these other women and their credibility by getting Shayna Baszler over in this way. What happens? Who knows who these women are and how good they're going to do? They may end up being the next Becky Lynch for all we fucking know. But imagine being those women. And we come to find out that they know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and they got MMA backgrounds. Imagine thinking back to this moment. What happened there? What if they become big and we have to know this information on who they are and their background and what brought them to the dance? And then I think back to Raw Underground and I'm like, wasn't this the same woman in the ring with Shayna Baszler? She knows Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but she looked like a fucking day one rookie. What is that? That is an awful, awful look. You're asking someone like me and the fan base to forget everything that happened for that night just to get Shayna Baszler over by shitting on all these other women and their credibility. I can't stand Raw Underground, and this is one of the many aspects that just does it all wrong. I can't stand it. WWE tells these women to hold back just to make Shayna Baszler look good. Bro, make Shayna Baszler look good because fucking Triple H booked her perfectly for 2.5 years. How the fuck do you drop the ball on that? And now you gotta go through this to get her over again. Give me a fucking break, people. Give me a fucking break with this Raw Underground shit. I can't wait for it to be fucking abolished. So, apparently, Vince McMahon has his eyes on a new pet project. Is it Ali? Of course not. Ali's new pet project is the crumb cake in catering. Vince McMahon's new pet project is Brendan Vink. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, it should, or maybe it doesn't, because, who the fuck knows who Brendan Vink is? Do you remember Brendan Vink on Monday Night Raw? Yeah, I'm sure you do. A couple of months ago, it looked like WWE was going to do something with Brendan Vink and Shane Thorne, who I think is very impressive in his own right, because they were briefly involved with MVP in Raw storylines. Remember, they beat Ricochet and Cedric Alexander on Raw, but you think I forgot that? Oh, I don't forget, motherfucker. I don't forget. Now, the plan at the time was that MVP was eventually going to turn them into something, and those plans were scrapped, and it may have had to do with Paul Heyman being fired, since that was his idea, and then my good old buddy Bruce over there came in and fucked up the entire show completely. Now, WWE had Thorne wrestle Bronson Reed last week on NXT. Pretty decent little match there. I love big man Bronson Reed. He's awesome. Now, meanwhile, Brendan Vink is not listed on any of the active rosters. It's unclear what is next for him, but it's no secret that WWE loves Brendan Vink for his size. Vince McMahon is said to like him because of his size. 6'5", he's from Australia, but he's willing to go slow with him. A WWE source described Vince as the perfect wrestler who is well-spoken, and he is someone like Drew McIntyre and John Cena who looks great on camera and would carry himself like a star when he's booked for mainstream TV interviews. Dave Meltzer reported last week in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that McMahon feels that now is the time to start creating new stars. Sure, Vince. Yes, I believe that, says nobody ever. Brendan Vink is a new pet project. Okay, by the time Brendan Vink has anything happen to him, Vince is going to be that much more older. Is Vince even going to remember Brendan Vink 5 years from now? Probably not. Vince will be 79 5 years from now. You think he's going to do anything with fucking Brendan Vink? Said the same thing about Cal Bloom. Where was Cal Bloom? On SmackDown several weeks ago? Whatever. Cal Bloom. He's the son of Bo Beverly, I believe, from the Beverly Brothers. Said the same thing about Cal Bloom. Always the next Edge. Now here we got Brendan Vink. He's the next John Cena and the Drew McIntyre of WWE. Yes, I'll wait and see if that even materializes into anything before we start talking about Brendan Vink. Here's a fucking clue. You got all these guys you called up from NXT. Any one of them could be your pet project, but they're Titus's projects now. They're off creating a fucking brand new menu weekly for Titus Catering instead of Vince McMahon actually catering to create new stars. Give me a fucking break here, folks. Speaking of McMahon, in the last story, Vince McMahon told Kurt Angle he could wrestle John Cena after his retirement match. So, let me get this straight. Kurt Angle wanted to retire. He wanted John Cena in his retirement match, but you opted to give him Baron Corbin, and then you go and tell him, as if it's not a disrespectful slap in the face, no, you're going to get Baron Corbin, but if you want John Cena, you can wrestle him after your retirement match. Then what is the point of a fucking retirement match? A retirement match. Retirement, by the way, Vince, is something that you should really invest in, by the way. A retirement match means that match for that particular wrestler is his last match. It's supposed to be. In pro wrestling, it never really is. Supposed to be his last match, but you want him, in his current shape, to go and wrestle John Cena after he's done calling it quits. I mean, if that's not a disrespectful slap in the face, I don't know what is. I guarantee you, I would be a betting man. Kurt Angle spent more time in TNA than he did in WWE. His time in WWE obviously made him who he was when he went to Impact TNA Wrestling, worked under Dixie Carter, and then he came back home because he wanted to be back home. He wanted to retire at the WWE's biggest show of the year, WrestleMania. Vince McMahon looked at this situation with Angle. Well, you left me. You went over there, and now you want to come back home. Vince had the ball in his court. He couldn't wait to unleash this on Kurt Angle. He couldn't wait to have Kurt Angle come to him and say, Vince, I think I'm done. I'm going to call it a career. I want to retire. Vince gave him Baron Corbin at WrestleMania for him to retire. And then what did that actually do for Baron Corbin? It did absolutely nothing. You could listen to every shill in the book. That match for Baron Corbin, that win over Kurt Angle, did absolutely nothing for Baron Corbin's career. Nothing. So McMahon apparently told Angle that he could have his match against John Cena the next year. Then he wouldn't be retired. After Angle informed McMahon that he was retiring, McMahon told him that he'll have to settle for Baron Corbin. McMahon told me I had a program with Baron Corbin, says Angle, and I told him I wanted to retire at WrestleMania this past year, and he said, well, you're going to wrestle Baron Corbin because you've had a program with him for the last several months. I said, Vince, I want to retire. Baron's a great talent, but he's an up-and-coming talent. I want John Cena. He said, if you want John Cena, you got it. But this year, you got Baron. I said, Vince, I'm not going next year. I'm done. This is it. And he said, well, you're stuck with this. Can you imagine that? Can you? I can't even fathom the words to even describe what that is as far as Vince McMahon being a good human being. That's nowhere to be found. How could you do that? How could you think that is right? How? Vince McMahon gives a shit about Kurt Angle. Vince McMahon gives a shit about history. I mean, John Cena was Kurt Angle's first match in WWE. Everything would have come full circle. Cena had his first match against Kurt Angle, and Kurt Angle has his last match against John Cena. It's a beautiful story. What was the reaction when the match was made? I think everybody on social media and everybody in attendance while there were live fans building to this match with Corbin, weren't there chants of, "We want Cena? We want Cena"? Vince clearly does not give a shit about anybody but what he wants. This is just another reason, another index card in the fucking index cards that sit on your desk of why Vince McMahon's a fucking asshole. Guys, I'm getting out of here. Thank you so very much for all your support. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, turn on that bell for all notifications. I'll see you tonight live for SmackDown on Off the Script. We're going to go over the remaining shows leading into SummerSlam. What's going to happen? We'll find out. Go and get your new t-shirts. JD's NEGAN now exclusively on bonfire.com. Follow me on social media at JD from NY206. That's on Twitter and Instagram. And if you missed anything that I've uploaded this week on the channel, go and check that out. Links are down below. Guys, I'll see you tonight live on YouTube for SmackDown right here on Off the Script. Until then, have a great day, and I'll see you tonight on OTS.